Hi, good evening, everybody. So I'm going live tonight because we're going to get into conversation with an amazing, inspirational, and motivational person. He's an author, he's a doctor, a consultant, a podcaster, a comedian. He hosts seminars, and he is from Arizona in Phoenix, and he's called Dr. Benjamin Benulis, and we're going to invite him into the conversation, and we're going to be discussing all kinds of things about healthcare, about living a healthier lifestyle, about going plant-based, and autoimmune diseases. So we're going to wait for him to join the live. We're going to invite him into the live broadcast, and we're going to be doing a candid conversation, little intimate chat, all about how you can benefit and how you can help self-heal yourself during a very difficult time at the moment if you're suffering with autoimmune diseases. So let's see if we can get him in on the video. Hi, good evening, Benjamin. How are you?
I'm doing excellent, Ryan. Thanks for having me on. Great to be here. How you doing?
Absolutely brilliant. Now, you're in Arizona, in Phoenix,
Yes.
across the Atlantic, across the pond. It's 7 o'clock here in the UK, and it's 12 p.m. there, I believe, in the afternoon. Is that correct?
Exactly, yeah.
Exactly. Amazing. And how are you feeling today? Feeling good?
I'm having a really good day. How about you?
Brilliant. Yeah, I'm having a good day today, which we'll go into discussing later in the conversation. But what I want to do is I'd like to introduce you to a UK audience, which you already have in some respects, because I found you and you've really helped and benefited my life with living with an autoimmune disease and overcoming it in some respects using plants and going plant-based. But before we do any of that, it'd be great if you could introduce yourself and tell some of the viewers this evening a little bit about yourself and how you've become who you are today.
Sure. Well, again, my name is Dr. Ben Benulis. Last name, no one ever gets it right, but just remember Dr. Benulis. Don't try. So I got into what I'm doing because, like you, I was just a guy who, in his early adult life, came down with a disease condition or a set of disease conditions that, at the time, the mainstream medical system couldn't figure out. And this was about 2010, 2011. And I had basically really bad chronic pain throughout my body, chronic muscle soreness. I had eczema all over my hands. I had chronic fatigue really bad, where I was like really tired, exhausted most weekends, never wanted to really do anything. Really bad digestive problems, where like every meal I ate was like a serious issue.
Repeating on you.
Yeah.
Yeah, not nice.
And then just general malaise and brain fog. I didn't feel good. I was working as an engineer in the microchip industry. I really had no understanding of like health or nutrition. I just kind of been thin my whole life and just kind of ate whatever I wanted and didn't really think much of it. And that all kind of came to a boil around 2010. And it really got to the point where like I could barely work, I could barely function. You know, my partner at the time was just like really upset with me because I was no fun to be around. And, you know, I didn't really know what to do. Finally, eventually went and said, okay, I'll go to the doctor, you know, here we go. And, you know, just kind of thought that it would be like, hey, I come to you with a disease or something's wrong with me. So you're going to diagnose me, give the disease a name or give the diseases a name. And then, you know, you give me a medicine and it makes it all go away and I'm better. And that's how it works. And I came to find out not really how it works, as we'll talk about, right?
Yeah, definitely. I can relate to that myself, and the whole all of the symptoms there that you've described, everything that you've just put into the picture, it does have a detrimental effect upon everything in your life, not just your life, but other people's lives, like your partners, your families, your children. So, and the people around you that matter. So it does have it's like a domino effect, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, it goes way beyond just like the symptoms you're experiencing, right? Like, okay, I don't feel so good, but when it's chronic and all the time, really severe, it affects your relationships, it affects your job, it affects your
Exactly.
life. And when there's no real outer symptoms, right? Like I had some eczema on my hands, which I pretty much just kept my hands in my pockets so no one would see them. But other than that, like, you know, you get the line, you don't look sick, you know, you don't like, what's wrong?
Sort of pat on the back, there's nothing wrong with you. You look completely fine. And well, inside, I don't feel fine and I can't sleep and I'm hurting and I'm aching and I'm throbbing. And yeah, you don't get listened to, do you?
Yeah. And so then you just feel more isolated and you're like, well, am I really just crazy? Or like, what's going on? Right?
Yeah, you make some of when we say we, what I'm referring to here is some of the doctors and nurses that are state or NHS, and the consultants. They make you feel like you're some kind of hypochondriac, if that makes sense.
Totally, totally. And it's like if they don't have a lab test that can diagnose it or medicine that can fix it, they just pretend like it doesn't exist.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
If it doesn't fit the model of like their kind of quid pro quo way of it's like, well, you like there's nothing, like your lab work looks fine, so you must be okay.
The other alternative, Ben, is that they stamp this thing which many of you may relate to, and it's called fibromyalgia. Like, what even is that?
Yeah, good question, right? There's fibromyalgia, there's irritable bowel syndrome.
IBS, yeah, that's another one. Yeah, okay.
And basically, what are called diagnoses of exclusion, where it's like, well, you don't have rheumatoid arthritis, you don't have ankylosing spondylitis, you don't have, uveitis, whatever. Like you can rattle off a million of them.
List of other symptoms, the other things, yeah. I'm with you.
Translated from Latin or Greek, I can't remember which one, means fibrous muscle pain.
Okay.
It sounds fancy, right? Like your fibros have been myalged, but doesn't really tell you much. And then usually it's like, well, what's the solution? Then it's like pain medication. Right? You're in pain, so let's give you something not to treat the root cause, but to numb the pain.
That's all it is. Yeah, and that's all it does. That's all. They're so quick to prescribe you with medication. Oh, well, you've got to take this, instead of actually getting to the core of the problem as you've described there.
Yeah, and it's not like they're deceiving anybody. It's like they just don't know any better.
No,
it's like,
yeah, of course. That's
what they've been taught. The medical schools kind of prepared them for 1950, when really it's 2021.
Yes.
And like the things that are going on in our world and our environment that are causing these new diseases and much more autoimmunity and autism and a bunch of other conditions, they're really not prepared. They don't have the skill set to, number one, handle it, and number two, we even acknowledge that it's the problem.
I think me and you, this is why we're doing this tonight. We are completely on the same wavelength. For my viewers, I mean, I share the same opinions and views as what Benjamin shares over in Arizona. I've been through the process. We'll discuss a little bit about the process that I've been through, which hasn't really been in the public eye much with my career and things. But I will discuss it a little bit this evening with Benjamin. We'll go through it, and it'd be interesting to go through yours as well, and we can sort of see the similarities in how we've been treated, but most of all, how we've overcame it and what we've done and used to make things better.
Awesome. Hey, and Ryan, I appreciate you using your platform for this kind of thing, because it doesn't get talked about enough.
No, of course not, of course. And that's what I'm trying to do. In the UK, especially at the moment, there's a crisis with the whole COVID-19 and everything else which is happening and deteriorating massively around us. So unfortunately, there's things like autoimmune diseases, cancer, and other really severe things that are getting in a way neglected. I will use that terminology, neglected, and not being looked at thoroughly, because there's other priorities and other things going on right now.
Well, and even before COVID, it's not like it all kind of washed away. I mean,
yeah, even before that. I mean, my thing's been ongoing since 2018. So, this was way before COVID came about.
And so, like I said, I'm glad we're talking about it, because there's probably people who follow you, who follow me, who are going through the same thing, and we may be the only ones that they know that are talking about it.
Exactly. And that's why I wanted to do this tonight, because I think it's a great opportunity. And I also think it's a great opportunity for people and viewers at home, after we've done this discussion and we've talked a little bit, because I want to get into the conversation of how you can help people, because you wrote books, you've done podcasts, you do comedy, you do all kinds of things to educate people on how they can look after themselves a little bit better, self-care, and how they can heal themselves using plants. So we want to get into that conversation, but I'd love to give the viewers at home an opportunity to ask you some questions on how they can look after themselves a little bit better towards the end of the broadcast. But yeah, let's get stuck in with that, because that's a great topic starter. That is the plant thing, because last May I decided with my girlfriend, because my girlfriend's been a vegan for 4 years now, and I decided, I've never thought about it, never wanted to try anything different with my diet, but obviously my health was deteriorating massively with this autoimmune disease, whatever it is. My body was sort of eating itself inside out. I was getting sores and ulcers and feeling all the symptoms that you felt. So fatigue and brain fog and being lethargic, aches, pains, being throwing up bile, stones. I was, you know, I've got all the evidence and I've kept everything, and I filed it all. So I decided that maybe, just maybe, it might be something dietary, maybe a celiac or something like that. So you know what, I thought, I'm going to try this. I'm going to give this a good go. And I haven't gone back since. I haven't touched meat. I don't do dairy. I eat all plant-based stuff, vegetables, fruit, etc. I'm very healthy when it comes to diet, and I'm still feeling these symptoms. So they can't pass the book that it's dietary, because it's not dietary. I eat better than most people do. So it's just, they seem to find excuses, one thing to another. But I'd love to ask you some questions, and obviously for you to speak freely about what you've learned and educated people on using plants to heal themselves.
Sure, Ryan, it's a great question. And I got to say, I have a similar story where it was like, it was not something that I wanted to do, was change my diet. You know, my whole life had been thin, I'd been fit, I've been in pretty good shape. I'd never like had any major health problems, never been overweight. And I just kind of attributed it to that I had good genes and that I could eat whatever I wanted.
With a Levi's, by any chance?
What?
Levi's. Levi genes in the genetic community. That's what you had.
Yeah, exactly. And I remember just like eating horribly, like they'd pass out, donuts at work, and I'd be the guy who took 2 donuts. People were like, oh, this up to you when you're older. And I thought to myself, no, it's not, because I have good genes.
And good metabolism, clearly, if you're so slender, right?
I mean, there's some truth to that, but it caught up to me just in other ways that no one really anticipated. And so after kind of going through the whole, medical, shuffle around, of just like getting the runaround, basically, I was like, well, they can't help me, and my health's getting worse. I mean, like, it was bad to the point where, like, my significant other was threatening to leave me. My job was telling me that I wasn't going to pass my performance review. Like, my friends never wanted to hang out with me. I never wanted to hang out with my friends because I was like, just basically every area of my life was starting to
getting pressure and other stress adding to whatever it was that was causing the issues. Yeah.
So it was like, for a while, I could just kind of soldier through it and pretend like it wasn't a big deal, But eventually got to the point where it was like, it was in front and center of my life. It was in the way of everything. And so that's when I started just researching on my own, self-educating, because I got really sick of like going to doctors and getting no answers, or getting, like all the stuff we talked about. Like, it was just like, did it long enough. It was like, this is going nowhere.
Yeah, getting the door shut in your face constantly, and getting sort of, even though you've done your research, they make you feel like you're clueless. Does that make sense to you? Can you relate to that? Where even though you know what you're talking about, they make you feel like you don't, or that they dismiss you of a diagnosis.
Yeah, because you don't fit into some box, and they know better.
Exactly.
Which I don't want to rail on the healthcare system. I mean, they're all well-intentioned people, but the way it's structured, it's set up to fail. Okay.
It just needs a shuffle. Yeah, it needs a shake-up big time.
Yeah. And so that's when I just started just reading and watching documentaries and videos, and just massively self-educating and massively self-experimenting. And I was always a very like traditional medical model guy, like we talked about. Like, I came from, my grandfather's a medical doctor, stepfather's a medical doctor, one of my uncles is a medical doctor. So it was like anything alternative was like, oh, that's just what stupid people do because they can't get into medical school. Like, I really, consciousness of it. And so, but I was like, I gotta check it out, because if it's, like I'm running out of options. So I'm willing to entertain some of these foolish notions. And so I started reading about, chronic fatigue, reading about digestive problems, reading about inflammatory bowel disease, reading about all this stuff. And the, talked about alternative modalities that could help and different supplements you could do, and how you need to take this out of your diet and that out of your diet. And so I started eating like gluten-free, soy-free, fun-free, dairy-free, all that. But I was still eating like a bunch of processed foods, right? And basically things came down like if you just eat a lot of whole plants, like a lot of fruits and vegetables, like you learned about in kindergarten, like a lot of these conditions can just go away on their own or improve. And I thought, that's cool, but I don't really want to do that unless it's like the last resort. And so eventually I painted myself into a corner where it became the last resort. And it was like, well, guess I'm doing this, like if this doesn't work, then, I can
just to tick them boxes, just to say that you've tried it and it hasn't worked.
Yeah. So I started doing things like consuming mass amounts of fruits and vegetables, okay?
Yeah, that's what we like to see. Okay.
2-liter blender of bananas and greens in here. Started doing that, and much to my chagrin, started feeling better. Like, started feeling a lot better.
Automatically, sort of straight away, or was there a few days and then gradual?
I noticed I was really just trying to heal my digestion. That was like the main thing. So I noticed I felt better when I didn't have digestive issues when I ate plants. I ate produce. But, I was not committed to being a vegan or plant-based or a raw food, or I didn't even really know those words. I was just trying to not have my stomach hurt. So eventually I'd be like, get a craving for pizza and go back and eat that. And then like, oh my God.
And then you're feeling it all over again. Yeah, okay, I'm with you.
And I would notice the contrast. Like, it was immediately, and like the longer I stuck with eating healthier, and then would eventually like kind of rubber band back, it was like I got hit with it worse every time. It was like, whoa, my body says no. And so it was something I kind of got dragged kicking and screaming into at the beginning. It was just like, I don't want to do it, but I don't have any other choice. Tony Robbins talks about this thing called emotional leverage. Have you heard of this?
Okay.
Basically, it's when the pain of staying the same becomes greater than the pain of changing, then people change.
Definitely. I don't disagree with that.
Yeah. Changing my diet felt like the most painful, terrible, scary, terrifying thing I could ever possibly do. But eventually it was like, well, lose my job and my relationship and all my friends. Sounds a little worse.
You were reaping the benefits of trying something that you didn't necessarily want to do, but you felt like you had to make a massive improvement in your own life.
Yeah. And the good news is that once I dove into it and just sort of put my pride on the shelf and put my fears on the shelf and just kind of jumped in the deep end of the pool, I found that wow, I really like this. Like, the food tastes really good. I'm trying all these things I never had before.
You don't taste for it, literally.
Something interesting happened. Not only did I just feel better, like all my symptoms went away, but I ended up feeling better than I'd felt in years. Like, I kind of forgot how good my body could feel.
That's amazing. That is so cool. That is the kind of thing that we need to hear, because I think there is a lot of people maybe watch this video tonight or at home currently in the UK especially, that are feeling all kinds of emotions, and not just emotions, pain as well at the moment. Obviously it's not a great time for anybody. I know what it's like in the US at the moment. It's a bleak time for many people in terms of mental health and well-being, but also self-care. And I think self-care is very important, like you've highlighted on there, because I think people are looking for something to give them a little bit of satisfaction, whether it be chocolate or junk food. They're just turning to other things, and like you say, they have a detrimental effect in the long run on your entire health, right?
Yeah, absolutely. When it comes to joy and happiness, there are kind of two main brain chemicals that regulate that. There's dopamine and serotonin, right?
Okay.
And so dopamine is like the quick hit. You eat the chocolate, you smoke the cigarette, you drink the drink, you play the video game, and you engage in other behaviors we won't talk about. Serotonin is more of a long haul. It's like investing in the bank account, right? It's not like throwing the gambling dice. It's like investing you know, eating healthy day to day, meditating day to day, getting enough sleep day to day, getting exercise, you know, doing things that are going to, you know, taking walks in nature. It's not like you go do that and you feel like $1 million the first time. It's work. It's a long haul thing. And so
I guess in some respects that's like having two natural medicines, or say two drugs, for an example, two pills or whatever. One gives you a quick hit and you feel absolutely amazing. You feel great, like you've just mentioned there, for maybe a day, half a day, whatever. And one is a gradual hit which lasts lots of days if you use it continuously. And obviously the one with the quick hit, you feel it quicker, it hits you straight away, but like you say, the consequences of doing that afterwards are not great.
Yeah, and the great news is that there's no contraindications to healthy living. Like, it's not like, oh, I'm drinking this smoothie, I gotta worry about, well, no, nothing to worry about, there's no side effects.
No, exactly. On everything that you're intaking there is, like you say, it heals. I will go into a little bit now what some of the symptoms that I started with, how it all came about with me, and how I found you. Is basically, it's been happening for about 2 years now. It started, believe it or not, I've got another condition which you're probably well aware of called ADHD, adult ADHD, and as I got older and left adolescence, I kind of saw a darker side to it, basically. And I've been searching for this happy medium. I use that there, happy medium, out of my teen years and into my adulthood. And basically, I got to 25 and I was feeling quite depressed, and I saw a darker side to what I had, which is a blessing and a curse at the same time. That's how I refer to it. So I started taking this drug, which I was prescribed to and advised to, called, I think it was antamoxicillin. I'm sure that's what it was called. And basically what it was, I don't quote me on that, guys, but I'm pretty sure that's what it was called. And basically what it was a stimulant, and the stimulant was supposed to have a diverse effect on my condition. Now, I took that drug, and within the space of 3 days, I became an animated robot, but I stopped taking it because it wasn't agreeing with me, and I started sort of hallucinating, and it just was reacting with me really badly. And on the 3rd day, I got rushed into hospital in the UK, and I was projectile vomiting. I couldn't stop, and I was pale. And blood was coming out and all sorts of things, and I've never ever been the same since. Now that led to, after I got discharged from hospital, it led me to having a kidney infection, and the kidney infection lasted quite a long time. It was quite nasty, and guess what, they put me on medication to clear that up, and after that, things have never been the same with me. And I don't just mean mentally, I mean in terms of how my body works. A digestive system, like you, really bad, really uncomfortable, feel very uneasy, very bloated. It hurts a lot when I intake food. And then obviously other symptoms, sort of 2018 to now, are like brain fog, fatigue, sores, open wounds, flare-ups of ulcers, like giant ulcers in my throat and mouth, and on my body as well even. And then obviously recently I've been internally bleeding when I'm using the bathroom or the toilet, and every time I've been going to the doctor and with all these symptoms, and I've been documenting everything, because I think it's important to document these things, because if you don't document them, then they aren't going to, are they? Do you know what I mean? So I've been documenting them and taking them to the doctor every time, and then it got to a point last year where he wanted to kick me up, and he did, and he was going to scrub me up and take me down to the operating theatre, because he would claim that my appendix were about to burst and that they needed to operate on that immediately in case it poisoned my body or whatever. But then I thought, great, I've got a diagnosis here. There's something wrong with me. We've got to the bottom of the problem. Whatever happens, happens, but great. Anyway, so we got to the operating theatre, and then they wheeled me back up to the ward because they didn't want to operate because they didn't think that that was the case. And then I got told it was after doing the inspection with the doctor, he was putting his hands in my right hand side where my spleen and my liver and gallbladder sits. And he poked his hand in there, and I yelped, and I wanted to punch him in the face because it was that painful, and which I didn't, by the way, but I wanted to because it hurt. And he said, "Wow, the way he's reacting, that looks like it's a thing called Gilbert's. It looks like it's Gilbert's syndrome." And he's showing all the signs of Gilbert's. And that led on to another one where my eyes were sort of changing colour and stuff, to Wilson's disease. I've had that, and then they took that off the diagnosis, and now they're saying it's fibromyalgia. So I've been told all these different things, and it's just so confusing for me. So I've turned to people like yourself that are inspiring others to live a different life in terms of diet and what they intake and how they do things. And I've got to admit, the way you do things has helped me massively. And I wouldn't say it's cured me yet, but it's certainly helped, if that makes sense. I've seen a benefit in what I'm doing just by listening to people like yourself, from eating well, being plant-based, and taking things at my own pace, and listening to people like yourself and being advised by people like yourself. I've seen a massive, significant change. I still get flare-ups, but I'm not as often. I was getting them like every week at one point. Now I get them maybe once every couple of months.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think people are very conditioned by this health system, and it's like, well, you get the medication and then bam, you go from sick to well. You know, in reality, that's a spectrum. And you know, it takes time to heal. The body can't do it overnight, but if you supply it the right conditions to do so, along with time and consistency of providing the conditions, eventually you get well. And over that time, you see improvement. And it's kind of like, if you're doing it right, you're seeing enough improvement to like get you excited about it, where you're like, you want to stick with it. And you notice when you don't stick with it, you regress. But people are, you know, we live in the quick fix, instant gratification society. And so
that's with everything, not just healthcare, obviously, but everything. Everybody wants something there and then and like that. But obviously life doesn't work like that.
No, it doesn't, unfortunately. But I mean, the good news is that, like, you're going to, you know, it's going to be a process, but, you know, not only are you going to gain a lot of health along the way, you're going to learn a heck of a lot. You're going to learn a lot about yourself, about
most definitely, Doctor. I mean, in terms of just from being I say vegan, but being plant-based, just from being plant-based over the space of nearly 12 months, you know, 10 months or whatever now, it's opened my mind up to all kinds of things in life in general. You know, it's introduced me to a whole new way of living, but it's also made me appreciate so much more around me and enjoy food even more. I enjoy food more now than I did when I could eat absolutely anything. Do you know what I mean? Because one, it's tastier, and two, you have to get more creative in the kitchen. You have to think about what you're doing and how you're doing it. And I know that every meal that I take in is a healthy meal, and it's not doing any damage to me or my body.
Yeah, totally. I mean, we think that's like, oh, I can eat whatever I want. You know, I was making a post the other day, like, until I got into this, I'd never eaten a mango in my life.
You don't know what you're missing out on.
You know, it's like, oh, well, that's the thing that other people eat, you know, not me. You know, it's like, I just never had one before. It was like, wow, I'm missing out, you know. And that was, you know, just like the first, I remember that smell. It's like, when I smell mango now, it's like it always brings me back to that time when I first was educating myself about health and first getting into raw foods and plant-based and all that. And there's this like exciting time where I was like exploring this whole new world. It's like, you're not restricting yourself. You're like, people think that, oh, I eat this big variety of food. It's like, you probably eat the same 5 or 6 things, you know, day in and day out, you know. And now it's like I eat over like 100, 200 different varieties of plants throughout the year. So there's a whole nother world.
This is what I mean. There's the plants, the plant-based thing. the possibilities are endless in terms of recipes and what you can mix and match and what you can eat, and it's phenomenal. And I know that whatever I take in, one, you can look at it from, there's so many benefits to it. So there's the cruelty-free element to it, if that's the line you want to go down, right? So there's that element to it. But the main element for me, and the reason I've done it, like you, is because I wanted to see change, and I also wanted to test out whether it was something that I was intaking and eating that was causing me the distress that I was going through, which turns out it wasn't. But it has changed my life completely, and I would highly recommend trying it, at least to anybody that hasn't or has thought about doing it. Go and do it. Go and give it a go.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, even if you don't have a health condition, you just want to have more energy. You just want to get to the next level in life, sleep better, be happier, make less of a footprint on the world. There's so many benefits to it that, like we both got into it for pretty much selfish reasons. I mean, you said your girlfriend was vegan for years before you were like, okay, like I'll do it.
Yeah. That's absolutely right. Yeah. So, I mean, I just got into it because a lot of not so much the doctors, but my family and obviously my girlfriend and a few other people were like, listen, Ryan, you should really try the diet thing. You should try going vegan or try being plant-based to see if it makes a difference within your life. And it has. So, and it's worked 100%.
Awesome.
100%. Now, obviously, we don't want to give too much away because you've got books stating all this, which you can tell the viewers about in just a moment. However, I'm interested to know, what is the recipe to this great big flagon of juice that you've got there? What is that?
It's actually a really simple recipe. Okay, it's so it's about 2 cups of water. I can't remember what that is in metric, and then about 10 bananas and half a head of organic lettuce blended. It might sound kind of like a weird combination, but it's like it's really simple. So I like simplicity. I don't do a bunch of complex recipes. People are like, put out a recipe book. It's like, y'all want to hear about me just sitting down and eating mangoes for breakfast? Like, so most of my meals are pretty simple. I just use a blender because I got to consume mass quantities of stuff to get, enough calories. So it's not really a means of like mixing a bunch of like disparate things. It's more of just a way of like making large amounts of food more manageable to eat. Like I could sit down and eat 10 bananas and a head of lettuce, but it'd be kind of boring and like
yeah, definitely. I can relate to that. Now, sorry, there's a really interesting question there which has come in, and that's from the Laughing Shaman. Do you either of you eat any processed food, plant-based, of course, or do you eat only organic foods? I've been a vegan for 7 years, but I have lots of stomach problems. I eat lots of processed vegan garbage. That is a great question because, I mean, there's so much choice in terms of the plant-based diet now, vegan diet out there in the supermarkets and stuff. It's a good question for me. I'll answer first. In terms of being fully organic, no, because one, I'd have to have disposable income and a disposable bank balance to be able to fund that, because it is very, very expensive when you go down the completely organic line. However, I do try my utmost best, and my girlfriend Crystal does as well, to get the best produced stuff that we can, whether it's from a market trader or an independent wholesaler or business. We try not to use the supermarkets too much. What about you, Dr. Benjamin?
Sure. Yeah, that's a great question, because like vegan can mean a lot of things. Like you can be vegan now and eat pizza, cheeseburgers, and soda, just like you did when you weren't vegan. So it doesn't tell you much. Like plant-based is a better word. It's like, okay, he's talking about eating whole plant foods, and I just want to clarify what that is for people watching. That's stuff that grows out of the ground and off of a tree, before it's been turned into something else that's been refined into, cornflakes or cereal or, soda pop or candy or pizza or whatever. So I eat predominantly organic foods, especially all my vegetables I eat organic. I do eat some non-organic fruit, especially like, I get stuff like the citrus grows in Arizona like crazy. It's
Yeah.
everywhere.
Sounds my kind of place. I love citrus fruits. So
A lot of like family farms that can't afford to get certified organic because it costs a lot of money, but they don't use pesticide. So it's like I eat that. Is that not organic? Well, I mean, I don't know. It's debatable. But like as much organic as I can and as much whole foods as I can. I was at a dinner party this weekend where it was like the host like knew I was vegan, made some stuff, made dolmas. They had oil in them. Made a few things that had like oil or refined grains. I tried to stay away from that as best I could, but like it's very minimal. And I think Laughing Shaman was like, yeah, I still got stomach problems. I ate a whole bunch of processed vegan junk. And, it's like we were talking about, vegan doesn't necessarily equate to health. And I'll tell you, like the vegan junk food is like so ubiquitous now. I mean, there's like literally a vegan burger place that opened up like 3 blocks from where I live.
oh, really?
Keep asking me if I've gone. I'm like, I'm not going to go. But it's like, 10 years ago when I first went plant-based, like there was like a few things out there, and there was like Boca Burgers, and there was no Impossible Burger, there was no Beyond Meat. There was the Day of Cheese, but it's actually pretty bad. And now there's apparently a bunch of other better tasting vegan cheeses which I haven't had.
There is some good vegan cheeses available. Not that
Yeah.
I'm endorsing them in any way, but I must admit there is a couple out there which are actually quite good if you want to sort of spice up your dinner with a bit of cheese and give it a bit more flavor. If you like cheese to start with for whatever reason, there is some good vegan cheese out there at the moment.
Yeah, but 10 years ago that stuff didn't exist. It's come a long way. It's good for the environment and the animals to some degree, but if we're talking like reversing these chronic diseases and getting healthier, it's not really impacts to me.
In fact, I've seen because obviously I've tried everything. Well, I say everything. There's still so much more for me to try in terms of the whole vegan junk stuff. I mean, I have tried some of it and I have ate some of it. However, even in the space of a year of me doing it, I've seen a heck of a lot more like products in the space of 12 months readily available now. There's a lot more vegans now doing it for whatever reasons they have, maybe not for the same reasons me and you have, but it's become quite a trendy thing to do.
Yeah, and I think the word's getting out from a grassroots standpoint. I mean, you're never going to have Boris Johnson or Joe Biden or any of these guys come on TV and tell everybody to go vegan. It's never going to happen. But
if Boris Johnson, he did a video the other day on one of the radio stations in London, and it got shared, and he was talking about the vegan sausage rolls that you can buy from Greg's, and he referred to them as vegans, which I found quite funny, but even he's getting in on the act, even he's trying the old vegan sausage roll now, so anything's possible.
So, hey, we got a question from Laughing Shaman. He says, I'm surrounded by vegan junk in LA, assuming he means Los Angeles. And that's true. The plant-based food is very expensive. Well, one thing that I did, when I went to chiropractic college, it was in LA, and what I would do is every Saturday I would drive down to downtown Los Angeles where they have the wholesale produce market, and I would buy fruit wholesale. And just like, I mean, it was ridiculous the amount of, like, I would load my car up with like a week's worth of fruit. I was eating 100% raw vegan at the time. And I would just do that.
Vegan. Yeah, for those viewers at home that perhaps don't know, I know what a raw vegan is, but for those that don't know what a raw vegan is, just want to explain what a raw vegan is.
Sure. So it's a diet where you don't eat anything cooked. You eat all fruits, vegetables, and a small amount of nuts and seeds. So, and like if you want to heal from a chronic health condition, an autoimmune condition, you have something that starts with, like that. A raw vegan diet, a raw plant-based diet is going to be your best bet. So, and if not, like as much raw foods, as much fruits and leafy greens, as you can stuff in your face.
Now, another interesting fact here is that obviously there's a lot of people that put strain on the body trying to be bodybuilders or are bodybuilders and use certain foods intaking perhaps meats and fats and things to bulk up their looks. Now, it's an interesting fact. Currently, at the moment, the world's strongest man is a fully blown vegan. And I've seen a significant change in my shape and my body shape and how firm I am just from being plant-based. Do you feel the same way, or?
Yeah, it's funny. Like we were talking about before when I was saying like I ate this way just to make my digestion feel better, and then I'll get all these other positive side effects I didn't anticipate.
Yeah, you see all the other benefits that come with it that you didn't even know existed, right?
Yeah. So one of those things was I was always into fitness, although when my chronic fatigue got really bad, that kind of tanked off. But as soon as my energy came back, it was like, well, let's see what my body can do. It was all of a sudden it went from like, I can't do anything to like, well, I feel better than normal. Like, why don't I sign up for a half marathon? Or why don't I sign up for this race or do this workout class? And one of the things I noticed was that like, I've been doing crunches at the wazoo and all this stuff to try to get a six pack for like my whole adult life. And then as soon as I changed my diet, it just appeared.
That happened straight away.
Yeah,
I agree. It is mind blowing, like how many people now are sort of converting from their old diet to this diet, and I do think it's great, and I'm fully behind it, and I want to try and encourage more people to try it. But going back to the autoimmune diseases, did you ever get a diagnosis from a practicing doctor to what your autoimmune disease was?
No.
Never
did.
Sorry, carry on.
I'm sorry, what?
Sorry, yeah, carry on what you were saying. I cut you out by accident there.
Eventually, I just sort of, after not getting answers, I just, like I said, opted out of the system, kind of found my own way to health, and then I just sort of didn't worry about it. I was like, why do I have to invest all this energy into putting a name on it, But people want a name, they want to know, like, so somewhat like doctors have this divining ability that if they give it a name, then all of a sudden it's validated, right? And if you're just not getting any answers, then, well, you were never really sick, or like, that kind of thing. But funny enough, I've been, teaching and educating and coaching on people with autoimmune disease to help them reverse it for several years now. And I remember one time I had sent out an email to my list about something, and this guy writes back and he says, well, that's great, Dr. Ben, but I have one you may have never heard of. It's called myalgic encephalopathy. Can you help me? And I was, well, I think so. Yeah, I'm thinking to myself, let's see. I haven't heard of this one. Let's look it up.
Rolling up the sleeves. Come on, let's go.
I go look it up on WebMD, and I'm reading the symptoms, and I'm like, this is what I had. This is it.
So the two things were completely the same.
Yeah, I was like, well, that described my condition to a T. Like, I never found that, in all my searching. So I was like, yeah, you know what? In fact, I wrote the guy back. I was like, in fact, I think I never knew I had a name for what I had, but this is it. So
and I've just diagnosed myself at the same time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can relate to that. I mean, the funny thing is when you start putting the labels, whether it's Crohn's disease, or what's the other ones? Fibromyalgia, and then obviously there's IBS and all that sort of stuff. You look at the labels and then you look at the symptoms, and all of the symptoms are interlinked or are very, very similar in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
So, like you say, maybe the labeling thing, maybe it's just one thing with the same symptoms that they seem to give labels for, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, the whole system is kind of antiquated, honestly. You really have to think of health as a spectrum, and you're either like in good health, bad health, or somewhere in between. And there's always room to move, and your actions are going to move the needle. And so what happens with these labels a lot of times is they're very disempowering. Because people, it's like, well, there's nothing I can do. My doctor said I have ulcerative colitis, and the only thing I can do is take this medication, and eventually when it gets really bad, they have to cut my colon out, and that's it, because I have ulcerative colitis, and there's nothing we can do. And the doctor said there's no cure, right? So it becomes this like box that people get put in, and then they're like stuck inside it, and they really can't see their way out of it. So I really don't like using all these formal names for diseases.
No, I think that's a really good thing. I think that's a really good thing, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Modern medicine doesn't like that. They want a very quid pro quo approach where there's like a disease and a cure, and a disease and a cure, and a disease and a cure. And if there isn't a disease or a cure, then it's like you don't even count. You're just persona non grata.
Like, some of the doctors that I've undergone and been with, they've tried prescribing me antidepressants and things to lift my mood and my mental health, and it has nothing to do with that. So the way I see it is that they just want to throw as much medication, the pharmaceutical companies getting richer, at you as possible. Do you know what I mean? That's the way I perceive it, but I might be wrong.
Yeah, I mean, that's just how they're trained. It's like literally the model is, and the system is set up in such a way that it can't succeed. To know nobody's fault. Most everyone has the best of intentions. Maybe not the pharmaceutical companies. We know their intention is just to make money. But for practitioners, they want to help people, right? But they have a certain, kind of scope that they can operate in.
Certain criteria, and some. I'm not saying all of them, but some of them actually become what I class, and the way I look at it is, it's a funny terminology, but a sales executive for pharmaceutical companies, because in a way they're just trying to push whatever they can at you to try and ease the pain or whatever it is that's wrong with you for so long, but not really cure it, if that makes sense. It's just there just to take the edge off, and no matter what, it's never going to get any better. Does that make any sense to you?
Yeah, I mean, that's what happens. I mean, they want, like, if they knew this stuff, they would do it. But the problem is that it flies in the face of what they've already learned, and they don't want to admit that they were wrong. They've been like harming people and not taking care of them all this time. So it's a very like cognitive dissonance thing, where it's like really hard for them to wrap their brains around it.
Yeah, definitely. Now there's a lot of questions coming in here, so we're going to jump onto the Q&A, and then to finish up, I'd like you to talk a little bit about your podcast, obviously, your books, and how people can reach out to you with their symptoms and their problems, and have a consultancy with you. But yeah, let's just have a look at some questions that have come in. There's a great one here from Mick Wilson. Do you put raw vegetables in your mixer? That's a great question. Do you put raw vegetables in your mixer?
Yeah, it's usually leafy greens. Like, I'm not putting like carrots or potatoes or like root vegetables in here. But yeah, there's leafy greens in here for sure.
Leafy greens. I like it. Anybody else that's tuning in, watch the video, the broadcast this evening, if you want to ask Dr. Benjamin a question, get your questions coming in the comments box now. Go. We're going to jump on to the next question this evening. I don't know how to say this lady's name, but she's asked, what were your biggest challenges when going vegan, and how did you become a vegan? That's a great question. Biggest challenges. We'll start with you, Benjamin.
I think for me, it was, I think handling social situations when I was like the only vegan.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
Where I needed to travel somewhere. I had to figure out ways to kind of always bring my own. And I kind of also had to develop the courage to be like, no, you guys are eating pizza, but I don't want to lie in bed with a flare-up for the next 3 days, so I'm going to eat my salad. And it was overcoming a lot of like social kind of, what's the word, like just norms about how things go, and what you go to a restaurant and you eat and you drink alcohol. And I kind of had to opt out of all those rules, all those norms, and just like be like, you know what, my health is too important to conform. And in the beginning, it was like, it took a lot of courage, but like, I'm glad I did it. And now I kind of realize that like a lot of these social norms are just absurd anyway. So when it comes to now things like, we won't get into it, but some of the new normal things that we're doing now, I have no problem like opting out and not doing them, because I know better. Like my health is too important. But that's I think that was the biggest challenge for me in the beginning.
Very good, very good. Great response. For me personally, the biggest challenge becoming a vegan was well, there's a couple of things. I'd say one of the things like Ben there was definitely if you, not that we've been going out to restaurants because we've been locked down, but I have noticed when the lockdown did lift and restaurants reopened in the UK, that a lot of places, especially where I live in Yorkshire, in North Yorkshire in the UK, which is a very rural community, farmland, farming, very agricultural, the restaurants aren't very accommodating in some respects. They have become more accommodating, especially in places like York and Leeds, and even in my hometown of Malton. In some ways, there's a place now, a cafe, which has opened up for vegans and plant-based people, which is brilliant. But it's very difficult to find things that don't come with milk in, or dairy. But and that's another thing. I haven't missed meat whatsoever. I've gone nearly a year without touching meat or eating meat or consuming meat, and I don't miss it. I've not had any temptations, any thoughts about eating meat, and as far as I care, as long as I live, I will never touch it again. Just because I think if I did eat meat now, it would probably make me very ill and very sick because my digestive system wouldn't probably handle it too well because it didn't to start with. But one of my main things that I missed, which I don't miss now because there's so many, like we were discussing earlier, there's so many options available, was the dairy element to it. I loved a piece of cake and a cup of tea. It's a traditional Yorkshire English thing, I think that. But now there's so many different like milks you can buy that are plant-based. And now there's unfortunately there's the companies are missing out on cakes or biscuits. If they did biscuits and cakes, I know they're junk food and we shouldn't be promoting that, but if they did a range that were, aimed at vegans, it'd be great. I do like a biscuit, a treat from time to time. I think it's okay. Any more questions? There's some more questions coming in now. There's quite a lot of questions, which is brilliant. We will move on. So this is coming from Crazy Scorpio 1. I thank people like you using this platform to heal. Post HPV vaccine, I've been a totally different person, experiencing total body joint. I think there's that pins or pains. I'm pretty sure that says pains, or it's meant to say pains. Worsening food sensitivity. Still need a solution. What foods would you suggest would be at the top of your food list when you have joint inflammation? And that's from Crazy Scorpio 1.
So first off, totally a common thing. The HPV vaccine is like the jumping off point for autoimmunity. We won't get into it, but it's pretty bad. And that story is by no means unique. I think the most important thing to heal, like we talked about, is raw fruits and raw leafy greens. In season, fresh, preferably organic. So right now in the Northern Hemisphere, it's March. We've got citrus is still in season. Grapes are still in season. Pretty soon, the stone fruit, the peaches, the mangoes, that stuff's going to come in season. And then, there'll be the berries and the melons and all that coming soon. But just, what's in season, fresh fruits and vegetables, high quantities, like I'm drinking 2 liters of fruits and vegetables here. But is there like one specific, like strawberries are better than blueberries? No, they're all equally as good.
Good response. Great, amazing. Charlie Hodges has put, I'm sorry, my family member got lupus 1 year post Gardasil vaccine. That doesn't sound good.
So we got, what are your thoughts on the Beyond Burger? I love it. It hurts bad. It's processed food. Maybe it may not be actual meat, but it's, the health benefits over regular meat are marginal. I mean, it's good, better choice for the animals, the environment, for your health. You're not going to be reversing any autoimmune diseases or chronic illnesses on Beyond Burgers.
That's good. And obviously in the UK, we are coming into spring at the moment, the season spring and then summer, which summer, I mean, the UK gets very cold here in the winter time. So a lot of us like a hot meal. But summer is a great opportunity to trial and try going raw vegan, as Dr. Benjamin discussed earlier on the broadcast. It's a great opportunity with all the fruits and vegetables coming into season. Great opportunity to start picking them out the floor, give them a wash off, go raw vegan, and see how it helps and benefits your lifestyle and health and well-being. So, any more questions? If so, get them in the comments box now. But before we say goodbye, I'd love you to just address some of the viewers and the video, of course, on how people can reach out and get involved with what you're doing.
Sure. So I've got a free ebook. It's called the Autoimmune Recovery Blueprint, and it's basically it's like 12-page, like short crash course book. Which, if I could go back in the time machine and give it to myself in 2010 and just say, "Do what's in this book and you'll get well," you know, that's why I created it. So if you're watching this and it's like, I got an HPV injury, or I got an autoimmune disease, or I got something the doctors can't figure it out, and I just need to know where to start, like, start with that. So, and then, if you are interested in working with me, and so there's a link to that in my Instagram bio. If you are interested in working with me and doing like a coaching program or something like that, I do a free consult. There's an application for that in there. We can sit down and have a quick chat and see if, it's a fit to work together. But I do put out like a bunch of free resources too, especially, I would just say start with that Autoimmune Recovery Blueprint.
Brilliant. Now, changing the subject slightly, but staying on the same subject weirdly, is there any plans? Obviously at the moment it's difficult because we're in a lockdown and we're battling a global pandemic, but after the pandemic, would there be any possibility or thoughts about coming to the UK and doing some seminars on what you're trying to promote?
I'd love to. I mean, I love teaching and speaking. So if we can get the people to show up and get tickets booked, I would love to. There's also a UK Fruit Fest, which my friend Ronnie Smith runs. He's been telling me he wants to bring me out. I've never been to the UK.
Really? Yeah. Great. You'd love it. You'd love the UK.
Set me up the travel opportunity to get out there, and I'll be there. Yeah, for sure. I would love it.
But the thing is, I think the UK at the moment is crying out for people like yourself to speak freely about other ways of using plants as medicine, but not just medicine, about curing things which people are struggling to get a diagnosis with, and that is rife in the UK at the moment because there's not enough information or education on it. Totally.
And like we said, it's like the problem is much bigger than it seems, and it gets swept under the rug, and unless guys like you and I are talking about it, it just continues to get swept under the rug. So it's important that we both speak up, and if you're watching this, especially on the replay, share it, let people know that they're not alone. There's hope out there.
Most definitely. Now, one last question: any tips for eliminating sugar?
Easiest thing to do is eat more fruit. Like, sugar cravings are your brain wanting fruit, right? It's just that in the 21st century, we found ways to turn it into soda pop and candy bars and all kinds of other things that have no nutrition.
Of course.
But if you eat fruit, like, I never crave sugar because I'm always eating fruit, and my brain's getting the nutrition it wants. So once it starts to get the nutrition it wants, it doesn't crave the chocolate, the candy, the soda anymore. Like that part of the brain just switches off. I used to drink a ton of like Mountain Dew and energy drinks and all that. And as soon as I started like eating a high fruit diet, then none of that stuff even looked appealing anymore. So fruit and sugar cravings will be a thing of the past.
Yeah, fruit is a godsend, really. Recommendations from me personally eating fruit to stop sugar cravings: cherries out of the punnet, out of the box, just beautiful. Especially Charlie, when the right
weight gain. Like Charlie, I eat like 15 bananas a day. I eat about 10 pounds of fruit a day. If fruit made you fat, I wouldn't fit on the screen of this video, right?
You're looking in great shape, so you're a great walking advert for eating fruit and vegetables. Good stuff. Any more questions for Dr. Benjamin this evening? Now's your chance to put them in the comments box. Yeah. So just before we say goodbye, on average, do you prefer whole meals, or do you prefer them liquefied like that?
I usually do my lunch liquefied like this because I'm just on the go. But you know, it depends for variety. Some days I'm in the mood for a smoothie. Some days I'm in for eating it whole. I don't think I have a preference. It's just a way to mix it up and keep variety.
Brilliant, brilliant. Now, I just want to thank you personally for coming on and speaking like you did freely tonight about all the things that we've discussed. If you've just tuned in, sadly, we are coming towards the end of the broadcast, but I will be posting this up for you to watch back. Please stay in touch with myself. Please stay in touch with Dr. Benjamin. Head over to his page and give him a follow. Because have you got any more books in the pipeline? Any other things upcoming that you want to share with the viewers?
Okay, so number one, I've got a new music video coming out. I've never written a song before, but it's a comedy.
Oh, wow. Music as well.
It's a comedy music video. It's about the vaccine. The song's called Science Juice. That should be coming out very soon. And then I've got a book I'm writing called Create Health. It's a blueprint for reversing autoimmune disease. So it's sort of like I have that free ebook, but this is like a big expansion on it, and like basically all the science behind it, and basically like a way of distilling down all the last decade of knowledge into a book.
All the key facts in one place.
Now.
All of the key facts in one place, yeah? Yeah. Amazing. Amazing. Absolutely fantastic. Dr. Benjamin, it's been a pleasure to have you on this evening. And like I said, please do stay in touch, get involved. He's got loads of things happening over on his social media platforms, which you can find by clicking on his page. Go and give him a follow and check him out. Once again, Dr. Benjamin, thank you ever so much, and keep up the great work in America and the United States. And we will speak again very soon. So thank you.
All right.
I have a special gift for you. The Autoimmune Recovery Blueprint is everything I wish I had 10 years ago when I came down with an autoimmune disease and doctors couldn't help me. Condense it down into a 12-page ebook, yours free when you sign up for my email list.